Hello everybody. Today we're going to speak about this German helmet and the research I tried to make into its original owner. So the helmet was found in a flea market in southern France in a town called Cifour-les-Plages. So this is a map of France, and Cifour-les-Plages is in the south of France, down here where I marked it. And you see this is Cifour-les-Plages, and it's right beside the town of Toulon, which is a major French military port that was also occupied by the Germans during the war. So the person who found this helmet contacted me on the internet because you see there's a name written in the back of the helmet, Knörzer, and he wanted to know if that name could be researched. So I looked up the name Knörzer in the database of the German War Graves Commission, and I saw that there's 63 guys with that family name known to have died during both World Wars. And that means that presumably there were something like 500 people with that family name who served in the German army during World War II. So I told the guy, no, basically, just with this family name, it's not researchable. And since he wasn't a collector and wasn't very interested, he was willing to sell me the helmet. So I bought it from him, and these are the pictures that I took. So you see it has remains of a decal on one side. It has this rivet here, so that means it's a model 1935 German helmet. On the other side there's no decal, which corresponds to 1940 standards. And inside the helmet you see there's a liner band of the 1940 type. So basically this appears to be a helmet built in 1940 with a shell of the model 1935 type and a liner of the model 1940 type. So this is the name written in the skirt of the helmet. And since these relics that we find in southern France nowadays usually got lost at the Liberation period in 1934, I decided to look this name up in the database of killed in action again, but only for the year 1944. And for 1944 you see there's only 18 matches, and I clicked on all 18 of those matches, and only one of those 18 died in France, a guy called Karl Knörzer. And where did he die? In Toulon. In Toulon, that's where we found the helmet. So does this constitute a match? Certainly not. But it is a strange coincidence. So I decided to dig into this further, thinking that maybe some more evidence will come to light and be able to confirm that the helmet belonged to this guy, Karl Eduard Knörzer. So I sent a letter to his hometown of Buchen, and shortly thereafter I received a letter from one of his sons, who was 85 years old at the time. And this is what he says in the letter. He says, so first of all, thank you for doing the research and all that about World War II. My father was Karl Eduard Knörzer, born in 1909 in Buchen, and he died in Toulon in March 1944. He left for America in 1925 and returned to Germany in 1934. My father got married to our mother in New York. She was also from Germany. I was born in 1931 in New York City. My father was a baker and a master pastry maker, and worked under these jobs in America. In 1934 we returned to Germany by ship. It took 6 days back then. My father took over the family bakery in Buchen. In total, my father had 4 sons. I'm the oldest, 85 years old, and my younger brother was only 4 weeks old at the time my father died. In 1941, my father was recruited into the Kriegsmarine at Kiel, and he was stationed there as a cook. Later he was sent to Toulon, where he also worked as a cook. And with this letter he sent me several pictures. So first, this is probably the boat that he traveled to America with, I suspect. Then this is the son Walter who sent me a letter, and the wife, obviously on the boat traveling back to Germany in 1934. Then you see that Karl is recruited into the Kriegsmarine. You have typical photos of soldiers in basic training. Here you see him in basic training, and you see he has a helmet visible. And this is clearly not the helmet that we found in southern France, because it has this decal that disappeared in 1940 and that is not on the helmet that we found. But then again, the helmet he had in basic training might not be the one that he had in southern France, so that doesn't really eliminate anything. And now he's arriving in southern France and taking the typical picture that German soldiers love to take when they arrive there. So them with a cactus. And this is him during what is presumably his last leave home. So this is the last time that he's seeing his wife and his children. And then you have the photos of his funeral at Lagoubran cemetery in Toulon, and the photo of his grave. And unfortunately, there's no helmet visible on the grave. So I was hoping there might be the helmet visible, but it's not there. And about the day of his death, this is what the son says. He says, on the day of my father's death, there was an air attack on the barracks that he was stationed in. With his comrades, he was already hiding in the air raid shelter, but then he wanted to return to the kitchen to remove a pot from the oven. At that moment, the building was hit by a bomb and my father was killed. These details were told to us by my mother in a letter that an officer sent to us. So this is a really strange death, you know. When you think about war, you think about, you know, the battles on the battlefield, infantry fighting Omaha Beach. And then when you actually look into a lot of these individual stories, it's often weird things like this. A guy gets killed by a bomb when he wants to remove a pot from the stove. And the cause of death is confirmed by Karl Knerzer's death card. You see the cause of death here is a bomber attack. Of course, it doesn't say the detail about the stove. And Toulon was a major military port occupied by the Germans, so obviously it was a major target for Allied air raids, and it was bombed numerous times and pretty much completely destroyed during the war, both by the bombing and by the fighting that happened there later on when the Allies invaded southern France. So is this helmet Knerzer's helmet or not? Well, Navy personnel were supposed to have a very yellow golden colored decal on their helmet. And if we look at the helmet from southern France, from Sifour-les-Plages, well, it's almost completely destroyed, first of all. But there is like this very slight yellow color visible. Not very convincing though. And then there's always the issue that, you know, army decals are white, but then they often become yellow with time. So collectors are always finding helmets with yellow decals and wondering, is this a Navy helmet or is it just an Army helmet that yellowed with time? Also in the helmet it has a lot number, you see, and collectors have done research and you can see that certain lot numbers correspond to certain branches of the Army, because the factory would make a bunch of helmets and send it to one branch like Air Force, and then the next lot would go to the Army, and then the next to the Navy, and then the next to the SS, etc., etc. And the collectors told me that this number does not correspond to a Navy helmet. But then again, if the decal was already so damaged at the time, maybe nobody cared anymore, first of all. And second of all, I'm not sure that people like cooks, you know, would really mind being issued an Army helmet instead of a Navy helmet. Those kinds of things happened. So is the helmet his? I really have no idea. I didn't find any information that can prove it's his. Usually I only make videos when there's a match that's, you know, beyond any reasonable doubt. Here, the name matches and the location of discovery matches, but there's no surname, there's no unit, there's no picture. So it's probably not his. Maybe it is. Maybe not. Probably not. I don't know. But I decided to make this video anyways, just because the story that came to light is so strange and ironical and also sad. You have this German guy who moves to the States when he's 20 years old, lives there for 9 years, is a baker. He has 4 kids, then he returns to Germany, ends up being called into the army and sent to southern France as a cook. And then he dies in these weird circumstances of wanting to remove a pot from the stove, and he's killed by a bomb dropped by the Air Force of the country that he used to live in. It's tragic and ironical. So even if it's not his helmet, at least now we can think about this family man for a couple of minutes, and now his story is resurrected thanks to the discovery of the helmet in southern France. I hope you found this interesting, and I wish you guys a good day. And as always, I can be contacted at this email if necessary.